Welcome to Deep Thought. Deal with your traumas. I'm going to tell you what. And when I talk about traumas, not just physical traumas, because definitely deal with them, but mental traumas as well. And indeed, your physical traumas can lead to mental health issues. If for example, something happens and you have trouble walking, that could affect you mentally. And I'll be talking about physical and mental later this week. But deal with your traumas. That's one thing. You have to deal with them. You can't just let them sit there. You can't let them fester because it's going to affect you mentally. And if it affects you mentally, it affects your ability to think, then how are you going to get through the world? How are you going to get through everyday life? See, one of the things is sometimes people have traumas and they just let it fester or they don't deal with it. They don't face it. Like you have many people might have a childhood trauma. Something happened during the person's childhood. And I'm going to tell you what, there are a lot of people who are dealing with something, or they had something they had something during their childhood, but they're not dealing with it. And it's affecting everything. It's affecting their relationships. It's affecting how they deal with people even outside of romantic relationships. It's affecting how they work, where they work. Is affecting them on multiple levels. And then because of that, because it's affecting them on multiple levels, it's affecting the people they're dealing with. For example, if someone has a childhood trauma, something happened during their childhood, and it could have been anything, but they still get into a romantic relationship, it could affect that relationship. You know, it could affect that relationship now, not only a potential mate, but also maybe the children. And then that's something that keeps going because then they might inflict a trauma on their children and possibly even grandchildren. And it's affecting a lot of people and because they've never dealt with it. Now, I've said multiple times, if you have something real serious, there's no shame in finding a mental health professional. And I've told people, I said, look, go find a mental health professional to help you with this issue because I can't help you. I'm not trained to do so. And I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem. Even some people who might have reached out to me for consultation, and I'll say, hold up, I can't really help you with this issue. Why don't you go find a mental health professional? Because that's how deep it is. And many people have had, it could be deep. It could be, you know, the obvious one, mental health wise, could be molestation as a child. That's an obvious one. And that can have an effect on people long term. You know, many people, they go to their deathbeds with that. It's not something to play with. If something has happened, or you know, it could have been you might have thought yourself neglected by your opposite sex parent. Now that's a serious one. People don't realize how deep that could be. Like the parent could have been just working and everything, thinking they doing something, but the child might have wanted the parent around. I mean, it's so many things. But the first thing to do is first realize that you have that trauma. And there's no shame in it. It's no shame in it because for the overwhelming majority of people, they had some type of mental health trauma when they were children. And there's no shame in having it because you were a child. You know, that person was a child. There's no shame in having that. But you do need to recognize that, and then you don't want to inflict it on other people. You don't want to inflict it on other people because many people do that. Many people do it without thinking about it. You know, because they have it, they inflict it on somebody else and it's boom. In fact, many people would say that many traumas are several generations. As soon as you recognize it, you got to stop it with your generation. You know, people within the Christian church, they'll call it generational curses. And you got to stop it. You got to deal with it. It's still there. You still have to deal with it. You don't want to pass it on to your great-great-grandchildren, you know? You don't want to pass it on, okay? You want to stop it there. And it's, like I said, there's no shame in having something. We all have something. We all have something that we might have to deal with. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it's like that. I mean, it's really more rare to find somebody who didn't have something that they had to deal with. Once you recognize it, you need to heal it. Once you recognize you need to heal it, you don't want to inflict something on the next generation. And then you want to heal it for your own edification, for you to move forward. Because for many, that trauma stops them from succeeding in life. That trauma stops them from having a good relationship. For many, that trauma can actually cause physical pain. You got to deal with it. It's no ifs, ands, and buts. You have to deal with it. You know, and deal with, like I said, if you have to get a mental health professional, it's no shame in getting one. Or talk to a spiritual leader, or just talk to somebody, or just acknowledge it. Sometimes just acknowledging it, just saying, you know what, I got this issue, I have to deal with it. And like I said, we all have something. We all have something that we've had to deal with. But then once we deal with it, once we can heal it, then you'll see that your life changes. Your life becomes better because you're no longer carrying that weight on your shoulders. That's the best way to call it. It's a weight on your shoulders. You don't want to carry it around. You want to get rid of it. Because once you get rid of it, you'll find that life is better for you. That life is different for you. It's not even hurting you. In fact, trauma, it can hurt. Now, I mentioned physical trauma earlier too. And, I'm going to tell you something now. Mental trauma is probably worse. Mental trauma is probably worse because it'll stay with you. Because physical trauma, eventually it'll go away at some point. But mental trauma, it can stay with you. It can stay with you for life. You don't want that. You want to deal with it as soon as possible, okay? But deal with it. Deal with your traumas. Deal with it. Recognize it. And it's no shame in having it. It's more likely that there's... everybody has something. Every single person has something. So deal with it, all right? So that's all I have for today. I'll get back with y'all. Peace and blessings.